Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Gal and I'm a real estate developer here in Austin, Texas. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about what a typical real estate development process looks like. Real estate developers are essentially responsible for managing the entire process that takes a piece of land and turns it into a building. It can be a very rewarding job because the built environment around us has a big impact on how we interact with each other and how we feel when we're in a city. In the developer seat, we get to make all the major decisions that have to do with the design, the purpose, and the use of the building, and we raise the money and hire the entire team to make it a reality. There are two major categories of real estate: residential and commercial. Residential typically refers to homes or duplexes, and commercial is pretty much everything else that you see in a city. This can include apartment and office buildings, hotel, retail, storage, warehouses. In my career, I actually do both. Typical residential projects I work on are 1,000 to 3,000 square feet. They take anywhere from 9 to 24 months, and they cost $300,000 to $1 million to build. Commercial projects I work on, which consist mostly of apartment buildings, usually include 1 to 200 units, take 2 to 3 years to complete, and cost roughly $15 to $50 million. So what exactly does the day-to-day entail in real estate development? Well, every development is pretty different, but there are some major steps that most developments share. The first step we're responsible for is getting the land to develop on. This is what we refer to as sourcing. This process essentially consists of finding a piece of land that fits certain parameters like zoning, size, orientation, etc., and getting the owner to sell. This isn't as simple as it seems because some owners might think that their land is more valuable than you think it is. Other owners aren't interested in selling no matter what. Sourcing land can be done in two major ways. Number one is off-market, and number two is on-market. Off-market deals are ones in which we approach owners directly and try to get them to sell us their land. In off-market deals, we're typically not competing against a lot of other bidders, so we can get land for cheaper. On-market deals are ones in which owners would hire a broker to market the deal to multiple bidders. This type of process usually drives the price up, but it also costs more to the owner and takes a longer period of time. Once we get an owner to agree to sell, we sign a contract, which basically binds the owner to sell us the property so long as we don't violate certain rules spelled out in the contract. This is called putting a property under contract. Once a property is put under contract, we start the next phase, which is called due diligence or feasibility. The reason we wait to put the site under contract before starting due diligence is because in this phase we start spending a lot of money, and we want to make sure that the seller can't back out after we've spent that money. In the due diligence phase, we study the land in detail to make sure that it's worth what we're paying for it and that we can build what we want to build. This includes preliminary planning, making sure there aren't any regulatory hurdles to what we want to build, studying the land itself to see that it's the right size, studying the topography and the trees on the site, studying the softness of the soil and how deep under the surface rock can be found, which can affect the cost of our excavation and foundation, checking the soil to make sure there aren't any hazardous materials in it. There are a lot of steps to due diligence, and I'll go into more detail on them in a separate video, but the important thing to understand is it takes about a month, and by the end of due diligence, you want to make certain that the price you're paying is at least what you think it's worth. The reason it's so important to get this certainty is because at the end of due diligence, we usually go hard a certain amount of earnest money. Earnest money is a small amount of money, usually 2 to 5% of the purchase price, that we front in order to show the owner that we're serious about purchasing the property. Going hard really just means that earnest money becomes non-refundable. Once due diligence is successfully completed, we go into the next phase, which is called closing. During closing, we raise all the money for the project. This includes both debt and equity. This process can go fairly quickly depending on your relationships with both lenders and investors. After closing is complete, we now own the property outright, and we can start what's called pre-development. Pre-development has two major goals. Number one is entitling the property, and number two is completing the design. Entitling the property just means that we're going to get all the permits that we need from the city in order to build the project. For residential projects, this can go fairly quickly. Sometimes it only takes a month or two. For commercial projects, this can take anywhere between 6 and 12 months, sometimes even a little bit more. While we're permitting the property, we also take it from a conceptual design, which shows the general layout and density we can achieve on the site. We usually do this during due diligence, to a full set of architectural drawings. This includes multiple drawings from architects, civil engineers, structural engineers, MEP engineers, landscape architects, and interior designers. And this set of architectural drawings, which we call construction documents, shows where every little thing in the project goes. Once your project is fully entitled and designed, you're ready to start construction. In this phase, you'll usually hand off the construction documents to a general contractor to build the project. As the developer, our role in this phase is mostly quality control, making sure people are working, making sure it's developing according to plan and on schedule. In most developments, there are also changes to the plans that occur during construction, and as the developer, we need to approve those. Lastly, once the building is finished, we enter the asset management phase. The initial part of this phase includes lease-up. Once your project is leased up, you can choose to either sell the property or hold it for a longer period of time. Another thing that's important to understand is that although I listed these in chronological order, there's a lot of overlap. A lot of times we'll start raising capital, for example, while we're still in due diligence. On most projects, we start some steps of pre-development before ever closing. And that's basically it. Obviously, there's a lot more detail to every one of these steps, and I'll go into those in future videos, but hopefully this simplifies things a little bit for you. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.